Live from the heartland and the crossroads of America, it's Tony Katz Today.
Well, I think this is a time that we know that we need a new generational leader. We have watched our country be in disarray. We see the world on fire, and we need someone who's had executive experience. I've been a two-term governor that took a double-digit unemployment state and turned it into an economic powerhouse. I was at the UN. I dealt with Russia, China, Iran every day. But you're going to find out tonight that there's going to be a lot of Ron's lies that have happened. There are at least a couple of dozen so far that he's done. So what we're going to do is, rather than have him go and tell you all these lies, you can go to DeSantisLies.com and look at all of those. There's at least 24 lies that he's told about me, and you can see where fact checkers say exactly what's going to happen and exactly why it's wrong. So it will cover the fact that he's only mad about the donors because the donors used to be with him, but they're no longer with him now. And that's because he's upset about the fact that his campaign is exploding. You're going to see the fact that he has switched his policies multiple times, and we'll call that out tonight. But every time he lies, Drake University, don't turn this into a drinking game because you will be overserved by the end of the night.
Well, if that wins debates, well, that'd be great. But it doesn't. And she didn't. But then again, do the debates mean anything to anybody except the total nerds and the dweebs who watch these things? Like me, a closet case, like Fred, my brother. Anytime you can go to Animal House, people. Tony Katz Today. What's going on, everybody? 833-GOT-TONY, 833-468-8669. Did DeSantis win? Did Haley win? Did Trump win with his town hall? Let me know. 833-GOT-TONY. On the X at Tony Katz, Tony at TonyKatz.com. Allow me to give a take here. Ron DeSantis won the debate, and that's not a debate. When it came to answering questions, when it came to being able to respond, when it came to having data, it was Ron DeSantis. When it came to, oddly enough, being more comfortable, it was Ron DeSantis, but not at the start. At the start, he started by referring to Nikki Haley as mealy mouth. What are you doing? Honestly, what the hell are you doing? What are you doing? You don't have any time for that. You got to be talking to the people of Iowa. You got a place in Iowa, second place or first, which is going to be a very difficult task in order for you to leapfrog New Hampshire to get into this race at all. People ask me, you say that the DeSantis campaign has been terrible. What's your proof? My proof is that if he doesn't at least come in second in Iowa, his campaign is done. That's my proof. That we're having this conversation is my proof, and it's yours as well. They both started out with this frenetic, manic, ridiculous pace going at each other, and you heard there from Nikki Haley, this website, DeSantisLies.com. We checked. She brought it up 16 times in a 2-hour debate. That's 8 times an hour. That's twice every 15 minutes. That's once every 7.5 minutes for those of us playing the home game. She brought it up a lot. And she looked silly doing it. This was a calculation. I had said the calculation for Ron DeSantis to make is to be able to ask Nikki Haley a question that would put her in a place of trying to figure out the answer and if she would freeze. If you can get her to freeze, then you win. Because she does freeze. She does. That part didn't really happen. Because it wasn't, it was clearly, from Ron DeSantis, he wasn't going to try for the thing that was suave. He was just going to go for the, hitting her over the head. And he did that for, in and out of the debate. But really those first 20 minutes were just, I think, wasted for him. It was after that, and really after that first break, about 48 minutes in, where he calmed himself down a little bit. We've seen this before. And he just got into the questions, into the meat of the matter. And he remembered what he was doing. As we discussed, Nikki Haley was running against Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Ron DeSantis, because of where he is in the polls, if to the extent that we're going to believe the polls, you got to base it on something. He's running against Nikki Haley. He has to show Iowa why he's a better choice. He had to appeal to the voter. He did a better job of that than Nikki Haley did running against Joe Biden and Donald Trump, because Nikki Haley didn't run against Joe Biden or Donald Trump. She ran against Ron DeSantis. She spent a remarkable... By the way, did I have to explain that this was a presidential debate? Like, it dawned on me, I failed the first rule of radio by setting up the whole story. You guys know what was going on. There was a debate last night between DeSantis and Haley, the only two people on the debate stage. CNN was hosting it. They were the moderators, Jake Tapper and Dana Bash. Donald Trump was doing a town hall on CNN. On Fox. They were on CNN. Trump was doing a town hall on Fox. Vivek Ramaswamy, I think, was on the Timcast. And Chris Christie, just hours before, had suspended his campaign.
Campaigns are run to win. That's why we do them. I see the chairman here in New Hampshire. He knows we run campaigns to win. My goal has never been to be just a voice against the hate and the division and the selfishness of what our party has become under Donald Trump. It's also been to win the nomination and defeat Joe Biden and restore our party and our country to a new place of hope and optimism in this country. I've always said that if there came a point in time in this race where I couldn't see a path to accomplishing that goal, that I would get out. And it's clear to me tonight that there isn't a path for me to win the nomination, which is why I'm suspending my campaign tonight for President of the United States.
And people said, oh, okay, not what we were expecting today. He at least wanted to give himself an opportunity there in New Hampshire. But that wasn't to be. And, of course, he's at 12% in New Hampshire. Oh, these people are going to be Nikki Haley voters. Oh, my gosh, they're all going to go to Haley. That's fantastic. Except in a hot mic situation, Chris Christie was caught saying this. Now, I've listened to this a couple times, but I don't think there's any cursing. But, hey, producer Jason, and welcome back. You're sick for a while. Glad you're back. Finger on the dump button just in case. Listen.
People don't want to hear it, Wayne. Mm-hmm. They don't want to hear it. We know we're right, but they don't want to hear it. Right. And there's, we couldn't have been any clearer. Right. We couldn't have been any more direct or worked any harder. So,
and let's not forget she spent $68 million.
Yeah.
I mean, we spent like
when you give land to China and places like that.
Yeah, that's what you get. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, she spent $68 million so far, just on TV. Spent $68 million so far, $59 million by DeSantis, and we spent 12. I mean, who's punching above their weight and who's getting a return on their investment, And she's going to get smoked. And you and I both know it. She's not up to this.
She's going to get smoked. She's not up to this. Oh, dang. So it is that becomes now the backdrop to the debate between DeSantis and Haley. And there were, I think, opportunities for Ron DeSantis to say you're so going to get smoked, or use the line and didn't really to any level of effect. Ron DeSantis settled in. Ron DeSantis found his legs and answered questions well. That cannot be said of Nikki Haley. And if you don't believe me, believe CNN.
I'll answer Abby's question. I think DeSantis won tonight. I think the first 12 or 15 minutes didn't help either of them. I thought the initial squabbles made them both look fairly small, frankly. But I think DeSantis settled down as the night went on, and Haley, to Axe's point, continued to be rattled. I think Haley drastically overplayed her hand on this website business. Yeah. I think it hurt her. I think it cratered her throughout the night. And it sounded like someone, to me, the more she went to that well, like someone who couldn't defend their own record. I mean, it became this crutch. It was like a rhetorical sandwich board. And it didn't, I think that the more she went to it, the more annoying, frankly, it seemed throughout the night. I thought the immigration exchange, to your point, was critical, and I thought DeSantis won on that.
DeSantis did have better answers, but the story here is that Nikki Haley didn't sound like somebody who was going to be president. Now, you could say that that's sexist. You can absolutely say that that's sexist. I'm just telling you what is. But the question before all of us is, was anybody paying attention? Everybody will discuss this as a race for second place. Now, when I say everybody, I mean people within the media and Trump supporters. And Trump supporters should note that they are saying the same things as people in the media because they both want the same thing, Trump to be the nominee. Trump supporters because they support Trump. And media because they want the ratings and they believe he's the most beatable head to head. Head to head. Frank Luntz made a massive mistake yesterday. That was remember the pollster in the old Fox days? Disheveled guy. That's Frank Luntz. And he said both DeSantis or Haley would mop the floor with Joe Biden in a debate. And I responded by saying, what are you talking about? If Joe Biden's the nominee, he's not going to debate DeSantis or Haley or Trump. There will be no debates. Watch it. Let's bet on it. I'm all in on this one. I mean, everything's possible, but you think Biden's going to show up for a debate? I don't. Oh, these people support fascism. They're a threat to democracy. I don't elevate people who are a threat to democracy. It's exactly what he's going to say, and that's going to be it. But does this debate move the needle at all? You can't move a Trump supporter off Trump, can you? Well, now you got to ask yourself exactly how many Trump supporters are out there, which is why I have been, from the beginning, I'll wait for the Iowa caucus. I don't know where I am in the numbers. I mean, I can share them with you. I can point them all out. You want me to believe? You want me to believe that the numbers are the numbers? That when it comes to Iowa, Trump is ahead by, on average, 35 points? In the latest Iowa caucus polling from USA Today, Trump 54, Haley 22, DeSantis 13. What? The one before that, within the same time frame, Trump 52, Haley 18, DeSantis 18. All of a sudden, 4 points went for Haley and 5 points went down for DeSantis. DeSantis in third in Iowa. But Trump ahead by 35. You want me to believe it? I got problems with that. It's not that it can't happen. It's not that I won't accept if it does happen. I'll totally accept it. I don't have a skin in the game there. Caucus night right now in Des Moines, Iowa, has a high of -2 and a low of 16 below. I'm just not there that the Trump people are going to show up to caucus for him. I am a believer that the DeSantis people will show up to caucus for him because even with the bad campaign, which it is, if you're a true believer, you're a true believer. If you're a true believer, you show up for anything. And this is where I give DeSantis the nod, and that's why I've got this theory that he can win Iowa. Then again, the last three people to win Iowa, they didn't go on to win the nomination. And can anybody be moved off of Trump to go for somebody else? So what is the point of a debate like this? What's the point of coming in second? And the answer is, for those people who don't understand the answer, the only way to move forward is to come in second. You know, there's an expression, what does it matter how a man falls? And the response being, when the fall is all you have left, it matters a great deal. It matters that it all wasn't for naught, that it all wasn't a waste, that it all wasn't just an exercise in ego, that you didn't actually waste all these people's money. All of that. So it matters a lot. People can deny that, and they can, engage their fiefdom and not actually be honest brokers. That's fine. They're more than welcome to do that. But that won't be us. And you got to be in it to win it. And that's the other part they're betting on. Be in second, and who knows what can happen next. I'm Tony Katz. I have been told by all the experts that the economy is doing great and Biden deserves credit. I have been told by all the experts that you're crazy if you don't understand how good this economy is. And by the experts, I mean Joe Scarborough on MSNBC and Paul Krugman, the Nobel laureate in economics, who once told me that the internet would have no greater effect on the world than the fax machine. But when I see consumer prices up, doesn't that mean that inflation is sticking around? Tony Katz today. It's good to be with you. Dr. Matt Will joins me, economist at the University of Indianapolis. Here's what we've got from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. CPI up for all items. This is how they say it. That's how they wrote the headline there. The all items index rose 3.4% for the 12 months ending in December. That's what we've got. Talk to me about what this means to you.
Well, the trend that we've been seeing the last couple of months is now gone. It disappeared. We were talking. We said very clearly there was a trend. We were waiting for it to see if it was all in the right direction. It was in a good direction. Inflation was falling. Kudos, fantastic. That's all out the window. There is no trend now. We had a significant uptick in inflation, a 0.3 for everything and 0.3 excluding food and energy. That's multiply that by 12. That's a high number. We're almost at 4% again. This is not a good sign for the country right now.
First, you always do that. You say, don't look at just the number, multiply it by 12, and that's the number that you work with, which would mean that inflation is at 3.6%. The target rate for the Fed is 2%. You heard them at their meeting in December. No rate increases for the month of December, and we're eyeing 3 rate decreases in 2024. Are they still going to hold on to that mathematics?
No, that has to be out the window. If they're serious about inflation, that has to be done. They might be even looking at a rate increase now. I'm not saying they will, but they're probably going to look at it, because if this inflation becomes a trend, if this is not just a blip, then we're not out of the woods. This is another round of the boxing match. Biden's spending is winning the day this month, and we have some inflation. This is not a good sign. We've seen a couple bad signs, in fact, in the last week and a half. So this makes me nervous.
Let's get into some of those signs really quick, but let me just bring this to you from the BLS website, Bureau of Labor Statistics, BLS.gov. The all items index rose 3.4% for the 12 months ending December, a larger increase than the 3.1% increase for the 12 months ending November. That was those decreases we were seeing until this. The all items less food and energy index rose 3.9% over the last 12 months, after rising 4% over the 12 months ending November. If I take a look at what the BLS is saying right there, aren't they trying to tell me that, hey, things may be on the overall a little bit worse, but less food and energy, which are always wacky and unpredictable, it's a little bit better? Isn't that the message they're trying to sell?
Well, I don't know what message they're trying to sell, but that's wrong. 3.9 and with a target of 2, that's double. This is not hard to figure out. 2 plus 2 is 4. 3.9 is close to 4. So I don't know what they're trying to sell. I don't know what the marketing spin is, but inflation is double the target. Double. I don't think it takes much more explaining than that.
Talking to Dr. Matt Will, economist at the University of Indianapolis. Now let's get into some reasons why. We often discuss, as you have discussed and led those conversations on Jerome Powell, chairman of the Federal Reserve, versus the spending of the Biden administration. But you had a very intransigent, if not incompetent, Republican Party leading the House of Representatives. There was not as much spending going on. Lots of talk about how few pieces of legislation got through, which I consider to be a massive success. But if that is the case, where did the spending come from? Or maybe said differently, what do you believe is the cause for this rise in inflation after 2 months of trend downward?
It's pretty easy to explain. We talk about it many times that there's two parts. There's the amount of cash and the amount of stuff. And the Republicans did not control the spending like they promised. The agreement in principle, which we are all aware of, is not a cut in spending. It is still a significant increase in spending. So one, cash is up. Two, we've seen this, that all the estimates are that growth is going to be down this next quarter than this next year. Now, not down as in negative, but down as in slow. We see it in global energy prices. So the global recession that we're seeing in China and Germany continues. Our forecast is slowing growth. So stuff is not growing, cash is growing. It's a very simple formula. Nothing has changed other than the spending isn't ridiculously out of control. It's slightly out of control.
I'm going to share this with you right here. This is Rick Santilli over at CNBC discussing a unique way to look at these numbers and how it actually affects you, me, and we in Midwest Main Street.
If you take core CPI, the actual index, which is seasonally adjusted, the read there is 313.216. That probably doesn't mean anything to you. It means something to me. That's the highest it's ever been. It's ever been. Now remember, Bureau of Labor Statistics brings out this number. Go to their website. When did COVID start? March of 2020? Okay, this is a decent number. That means Nov was the most updated we had prior to about 2 minutes ago. If you go to their website and you look at their CPI inflation calculator and you put in Feb of 2020, what you'll find is it takes $1.19 of Nov $23 to buy what bought $1 pre-COVID.
It's an interesting look at the numbers there. He is saying that if you take a look at a CPI, Consumer Price Index inflation calculator, you put in February of 2020, what you will find is that it takes $1.19 today, November 2023 numbers is what he said, to buy what it cost you for just $1 pre-COVID. Would you agree with that kind of calculation?
I think Rick is a genius. I like when he does these kind of analyses. I like when he puts it in that kind of common lingo. But I go a step further and say, the government just gave you a 19% pay cut. That's a way to look at it. Think of it as Joe Biden gave everybody in the country a 19% pay cut. That's another way to look at it. I like how Rick looks at things as well.
So now that we see this, and we see this uptick in inflation and recognize that the Fed is further away from its 2% goal, two things have got to be asked. What moves do they make? And it seems that the only one they can engage in, is a raising of interest rates. And number two, what would you think in an election year a president does to make things look better for himself? You and I both know in reality that sometimes things get done, moves get made, thoughts get put out, messages get put out to try and move things in one's favor. Has there been any indication to you or other economists that Joe Biden and his team are thinking in this way?
You know what? That's a tough question. I don't know what he's thinking. Yes, he wants to do things to help the situation, to make himself look good, but everything he does makes it worse. I tell you where I'm more concerned, and that is with the Fed. Is the Fed going to be political? I think the Fed is doing the wrong thing at the moment by not increasing interest rates. They're concerned about banking, and I think they don't want to do anything in an election year. I believe the Fed is actually looking to help the president. I sincerely believe that. I know he's appointed by Trump, but I think Jerome Powell is not doing anything at the moment because he wants to help Biden. He doesn't want to upset the apple cart at the moment. I'm not saying he's a Biden supporter, but he doesn't want to upset the apple cart, and he knows a rate increase could cause turmoil in the banking sector, and he wants to not do that, even though that's what he knows he should do.
The counter to that, the clear conversation is he's not going to have a choice. The interest, not the interest rate, the inflation went up. He has to now make a move. It's not a question of whether or not he wants to. If he doesn't, isn't that the political move?
You know, that's more of an answer or a question for you. I don't know the political move. I don't know what that means if he doesn't make a move. We will have inflation. I mean, I don't know. This may be 1 month. Let's wait until next month to see if this is truly a trend or not. But if it is a trend, he's going to be between a rock and a hard place. I don't know what he's going to do because he has no easy out for this situation if it continues in this direction.
Talking to Dr. Matt Will, economist at the University of Indianapolis, is there been conversation about what caused this increase to happen if we were trending down for a couple of months and in certain places here, certain places there, hoping that would continue? Certainly we've seen gas prices go down for sure. Did something, we talk about it being spending, but was there something specific? Did something happen on a world stage to engage more levels of cost or more cost increases?
No, there's nothing global. This was the global recession, which we see, the slowdown in the economy, so less stuff, and then continued federal government spending. I mean, it's really a simple formula. There's not much complicated stuff happening, and those two things continue to occur, and those two things continue to cause the inflation.
Let me move you off this and into Bitcoin. You have got the exchange funds that have been approved now by the SEC, and trading is starting. This is cryptocurrency, to which I have no issue with whatsoever. I am totally fine with decentralized currencies. I'm a fan. But you take a look at these funds, and this is creating an ability for lots of people to get in to the world of crypto. Crypto went over 48,000, or I should say Bitcoin went over 48,000 today. Ethereum over 2,700, and those numbers could climb. And this is a cryptocurrency. In Bitcoin, that was at 13,000 a year ago. It has been a steady climb, and people think this is going to go to 100,000 or more. You a fan of these things?
Tony, I love these things for gambling purposes. I hate these things for investing. They are not investing. They should not be, like you said, open to everybody to put in their investment account. If you want to do it, fine. I have no problem. Laissez-faire. Put your money in it. Put your money for a basketball game. But this is not a vehicle for investing. I will ask you, Tony, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm going to do it. If you own Bitcoin, what do you own?
I will tell you that I own fractional bits of Bitcoin, and what I would tell you I own is an opportunity. What I own is people having faith in an idea. That's what I own. I would say that freely.
Yes, and I would say you're right. You own an idea. You don't own assets. You don't own income stream. You don't have personnel. You don't sell product. If you go bankrupt and you go to a court and you say liquidate, there's nothing to liquidate. Bitcoin is nothing. It is an idea. And it's okay if you want to speculate on an idea, but that's called gambling. That's not called investing. And grandma and grandpa and a person who's unknowledgeable and isn't wealthy should not be allowed to put their money into this unless it's through a gambling vehicle. It's not investing. And the brokerage firms that want to put this in investing are just looking to steal money from you. They want deal flow. They're looking for transactions. They want their commission. They don't care about you and your safety. And if grandma and grandpa put their money in an ETF and they lose it all, they have nothing to go back on. This scares me. This is a disaster waiting to happen. It should not be in investing. It should be in the gambling arena.
Just as a bit of pushback, can't that be said about any investment?
No. If you own Eli Lilly and Eli Lilly went bankrupt, you could go and sell the buildings, you could sell the equipment, you can liquidate the assets, and you would get something from it. These companies produce sales, they have staff, they have value they create tangible, you could physically look at the products they create. There is nothing behind Bitcoin. There's nothing there other than your belief that it's valuable.
All I know is I'm going to about to get some emails because of you. You
Good.
are going to fill my inbox today, sir.
Have fun reading, Tony.
Yeah, just letting you know how that's going to go. Dr. Matt Will, economist at the University of Indianapolis. I appreciate you taking the time to be with us. Much more to get to. I'm Tony Katz.
I'm going to be, on day one, I'm going to be a dictator. Who says it to you, tells you, I'm going to put you people away. I'm going to take all the journalists, I'm going to take all the gay folks, I'm going to move you all around and disappear you. If that's the country you want, you know who to vote for. If that's not the country you want, you have to make a decision.
That's Whoopi Goldberg, and that is deranged. Trump, if he's elected, is going to disappear the gay people and the journalists. It was Barack Obama that was keeping tabs on James Rosen, right? Just making sure I understand how some of this went. Very often the deflection is projection. It's the idea of, here's what I'm doing, and therefore I don't want you to think about me in this, so I'll say it about you. That is so far. If I started saying things like that on air, the higher-ups at my stations would be like, yeah, you can't do that. Nobody at ABC will be like, yeah, maybe Whoopi Goldberg shouldn't be doing this anymore. Maybe she's lost. Maybe she's just completely disconnected from reality. Trump is going to disappear journalists and gay people. Somebody tell Richard Grinnell. And this doesn't move the Trump supporter. This makes them say, you see, constantly persecuted. That's why I got to support him. And me, I think that's why they constantly engage in the persecution, because they want the support. The left is convinced that Trump is the easier beat. Absolutely. You'll note that none of them are saying, oh my gosh, Nikki Haley is surging. Oh, that'd be great if she was the nominee. Whew, I'd feel so much better. They don't say that at all. They will give you 900 reasons why Nikki Haley isn't good enough. If Nikki Haley is the nominee, they will say Trump is Hitler, but Haley is worse. And if DeSantis is the nominee, they'll say Trump is Hitler, and DeSantis is worse. And if Trump's the nominee, they'll say Trump is Hitler, and Trump is worse. They are just not happy unless they're engaged in some comparison to Hitler. He's going to disappear people. That's crazy talk. And why won't anybody say that she's crazy? No one. What does Alyssa Farah do on that dais? You're supposed to look at her and say, you know you're crazy, right? Is that what sex with Ted Danson does to you? Just makes you nuts? Has anybody seen Mary Steenburgen? By the way, who had Ted Danson jokes on their bingo card? No? Yes? No? Not even I. But sometimes the opportunity presents itself. So cheers to you. I see what I did there. I'm Tony Katz.
Great question. It's not sustainable for our country. We have millions and millions of people here. It is not sustainable. Did you see in New York City where they're getting the regular students out and they're putting migrants in their place? We are going to have the largest deportation effort in the history of our country. We're bringing everybody back to where they came from. We have no choice. We have no choice.
Trump at the town hall on Fox last night. Exactly as, at the same time, a Republican debate is happening, sanctioned by the Republican Party on CNN. How the Republican Party hasn't gone after Fox is beyond comprehension, beyond understanding. How could you not? How could you not? Counter-programming the Republican debate? What I love is when people tell me that Fox is all in for Trump, And then they'll tell me that Fox is all in for DeSantis. And then they'll tell me that Fox is all in for Haley. And then they tell me that I should have a job at Fox because I'm one of those things. Whatever it is they decide at the moment. It is precious. Tony Katz, that's me. Hey, what's up? Tony Katz today, 833-GOT-TONY, 833-468-8669, 833-GOT-TONY. Trump with the largest deportation effort in American history. How? Don't tell me you're going to do it. Tell me how. I am clear at all times that the presidency of Donald Trump worked out pretty well for Tony. May have worked out pretty well for you. Worked out pretty well for the country. We were better off. The policies weren't Trump policies. The policies were actual conservative policies from think tanks that have well worked out these positions. And I am thankful that Trump took that advice. I have no idea if that would be the case if he were to be elected again. But when it comes to the border, the conversation of the wall was the correct one. The implementation of the wall was nowhere near good enough. And when it comes to deportations, Trump versus Obama deportations, Obama deported more people. Barack Obama deported more people than Donald Trump. Now, that could be for a whole series of reasons, including possibly having more people in the country that one could deport. But this question of, you say you're going to do these things, are you really going to do them? This is where Ron DeSantis probably had his biggest hit. When he went through a litany of things that Trump said he was going to do this, he didn't do that. Trump said he was going to do this other thing, he didn't do that either. Right? He says a lot of things that he doesn't actually do. It's probably DeSantis's best moment regarding Trump, and he didn't have many of them. DeSantis didn't really go at Trump at all. At all. But in the world of Trump, it's not that you give the specific to the thing. It's that you say the thing, and that's enough. That is very clear and very obvious. In the town hall, Trump said a couple of things where you could say to yourself, all right, well, that's just not the case. That is just not the case. Or he engaged some things that you're like, you're not really giving an answer. Now, are you? Let me give you something where Trump simply is not telling the truth. And this was the conversation about Fauci.
No, I wouldn't. And I never did. I let the governors make their decisions. And some of them, like from South Carolina, you know Henry McMaster, and frankly, North Dakota, a few of them. Tennessee, they didn't shut down at all. Florida did shut down. Ron DeSantis shut down. Or, as he's known, Ron DeSanctimonious. He shut his state down very violently, actually, and shut the highways down, the roads down. But we had, I'm a federalist in a sense, because that's the federalist way. No, I didn't actually have a shutdown, despite the fact that some people wanted to, and some people didn't want to. But we had some great governors. The governors that did the best job were Republican governors, and they were the ones that didn't shut down.
The idea that we're going to attack Ron DeSantis on shutdowns is laughable when a year ago, was it a year ago, we were cheering how open Florida was. A year and a half ago. It's nutty. And there are tweets, because there's a tweet for everything, right? There's a social media post for everything. With Trump saying, so we're clear, I will decide if we're open in conjunction with the governors. We'll have an announcement soon. So to claim the whole Federalist idea, which is a conversation of states' rights, doesn't comport with what actually happened. This is an example of nothing there is true regarding Ron DeSantis. Republican governors in the main, I would have assumed, did better with COVID than Democrat governors. I live in the state of Indiana. Our governor did a terrible job with COVID. He did a terrible job with COVID. He doesn't believe that, but what does that matter? The people know it. I can't tell you what Governor Eric Holcomb believes or doesn't believe. I got nothing. What can I do with that? I can't tell you. What I can tell you is our governor failed. Miserably, in my view, did Eric Holcomb, the governor of Indiana. What I can tell you is that people were cheering Ron DeSantis for being open, and that line, while absorbed by Trump supporters, doesn't work for another soul. There was a conversation about political violence.
Can you say tonight that political violence is never acceptable?
Well, of course that's right. And of course, I'm the one that had very little of it. Take a look at wars. Again, I didn't start. I wasn't involved in wars. We beat the hell out of ISIS. We won 100%. We brought our troops back home. Look at the violence that we've had. Look at the violence we have recently.
Right, but when you say bedlam, what do you mean?
I think you have bedlam. I think you look at Joe Biden, it's bedlam. You have a man who can't lead. You have a man who can't find his way off a stage after he makes a speech that lasts for about 2 minutes. Now, I think bedlam is Joe Biden. I think that he's using this. This is just a political ploy. Trump is a dictator. He wants to be a dictator. You know, it's interesting. I did a show, Sean Hannity. Did you ever hear of him? He's a very nice man. And he said essentially, you're not going to be a dictator, are you? Tell me. I think he was trying to give me a nicer question than maybe you guys would. He meant it very well. I said, I'm going to be a dictator for one day. We're going to do two things. The border, we're going to make it so tight you can't get in unless you come in legally. And the other is energy. We're going to drill, baby, drill. After that, I'm not going to be a dictator. After that, I'm not going to be a dictator.
He never answered the question about political violence, which was from Brett Baier, a January 6th question. He completely goes in a direction that isn't the opposite direction. It's wherever he wants to go with the thing. The reason that Trump people cheered that and what he got to at the end, the reason people like him is exactly what you just heard. If you take a look at Trump's demeanor in this 2-on-1, because it's Brett Baier and Martha McCallum, in this town hall, versus Nikki Haley's demeanor, and to an extent Ron DeSantis' demeanor, although he's relaxed a little. How could you tell? You compare those demeanors and you go, my gosh, you get why people like this guy. I find it weird that people deny it. The dude is just chill and confident. He, no matter what you've said, he's going to take it in a direction that has nothing to do with you. And oddly enough, people let him, which I have never understood. As a guy who does interviews, I don't understand why you would let somebody take you in a direction and then say, whoa, you didn't answer my question. Let's go back. I don't get it. But he's just at ease. He's just at ease. You know, this whole thing about I'm going to be dictator for a day. And everybody says, my gosh, he said he's going to be dictator for a day. We're going to secure the border and we're going to drill. And then people go, oh, that's good. I like that. That's the kind of dictator we need. Because his people know that he doesn't mean dictator. And the people who oppose him are so criminally insane, they'll take anything he says and lose their minds. Because losing the mind is, of course, what they're after. Did the town hall win anything for Donald Trump? No, in that he has the same amount of supporters that he had yesterday. I don't think it necessarily gained him anybody. I say this as I'm fully aware that Representative Darrell Issa out of California came out to endorse Donald Trump today. I think every time he does one of these things, he gets one of those opportunities. I think he has in his base all the people he's going to have in his base. The question before us is, if he gets the nomination, will the other people come along? It can be said in just the opposite measure, but let's start here. There are people looking at DeSantis. There are people looking at Nikki Haley. Of course they are. There are people screaming at me, nobody cares about these two. No, you don't care about these two. It's not that nobody cares about these two. You might say that the polling shows more people care about Trump, but doesn't say that nobody cares about these two. For example, nobody cares about Asa Hutchinson. That much is true. That we can agree on. But when you scream, nobody cares about DeSantis or Haley, that's not a fact. That's not real. Tony, why are you talking about this debate? This was a social media hit today. Why are you talking about it? Nobody cares about it. What are you talking about? It's a debate for candidate. For the candidate, of course I'm going to discuss it. Of course I am. You don't think I should? Well, you're not in charge of programming. If I were you, I would go get your own radio show. The people looking at Haley, the people looking at DeSantis, in the main, the vast majority of them, if Trump were the nominee, they'd be like, okay, we're gonna ride this thing. We're gonna see what happens. Be better than Biden, and they're gonna go in the booth. They're gonna click for Donald Trump, right? That's how it's gonna go. I'm one of those people. If Trump's the nominee, click Trump. If DeSantis is the nominee, click DeSantis. If Haley is the nominee, click Haley. I've stated this. I am clear about this. If Haley or DeSantis were the nominee, I am not so sure that the Trump supporter comes along. But the Trump supporter can utilize the town hall as this example of the guy just has a command of the room, and that's that. And they can say things like, well, he's got an answer for this, and look what he's going to do on the border here. The fact that he wasn't as successful as people want to discuss in getting all the things done, he wasn't. He wasn't as successful. Drain the swamp. The swamp didn't get drained. And don't tell me that Dr. Anthony Fauci wasn't a big part of your team in the COVID days. Of course he was. It's nonsense to say otherwise. Nonsense. Trump did not necessarily get a new voter. But if somebody was engaged in comparing, the difference between Trump's confidence and what you saw between Haley and DeSantis on that debate stage is so vast. There's a reason that the Trump supporter isn't swayed. There are reasons. And not all of them are this a stolen election that people want to claim. No. Some of it is they just like the dude's attitude. You might want to start recognizing that. I'm Tony Katz.
This week has once again revealed that extreme MAGA Republicans have zero interest in doing anything productive that is designed to benefit the American people. House Republicans are the party of insurrection, impeachment, and illegitimate investigations.
If it doesn't have alliteration, Hakeem Jeffries doesn't know how to say it. This is just your semi-weekly, bi-weekly, monthly reminder that there is no greater blowhard in the House than Hakeem Jeffries, which is saying something, which is why he got the job as leader of the Democrats. Tony Katz today. 833-468-8669. 833 got Tony. He's just Republicans should keep their focus. You absolutely are going to have to figure out what you're going to do about Hunter not honoring a House subpoena, which I guess Hakeem Jeffries is fine with. When he's not in charge, it's not a legitimate investigation. That is a great standard to have. God, what a chump. You can't have a society that works like this. You can't. It just doesn't work like that. It can't. You also can't have a society where you're told that these institutions are here to help and we're always honest with the American people, and then they lie. This is the story of not only the CDC, but Dr. Anthony Fauci. Anthony Fauci lied. Anthony Fauci's a fraud of a human being. It's not that Anthony Fauci is more of a blowhard than Congressman Hakeem Jeffries, but his ego is 10 times the size. Anthony Fauci, who sat for 2 days in closed-door hearings, according to Chairman Brad Wenstrup, who's also a doctor, you know the whole, hey, it's COVID, you got to be 6 feet apart? Yeah, that was not based on scientific data. Quote, likely not based on scientific data. You told people they couldn't be near each other. You kept husbands from saying goodbye to their wives as they shuffled off this mortal coil. They couldn't be in the same room. They couldn't be near each other. You're going to pass COVID this way. My gosh, you can't have large amounts of people together. You lied. Dr. Anthony Fauci, when he goes down in history, it should be for how he tried to destroy faith in American institutions and the level of success he clearly had. At the time, we said, this is silly. And we were told to shut up. We were told we were going to kill grandma. We were told it was misinformation and disinformation. We were told all of the things. We discussed. You discussed it with your friends. I discussed it on air. You mean when I go to a restaurant and I sit down to eat, I can take off my mask. But if I use the restroom, thus standing up to go to the restroom, I have to wear a mask. Because, you see, anything over 5 feet and the or is it really just a question of how tall you are? Once you stand, that's where the COVID gets you. But if you're sitting, the COVID goes right over you. And if you're somebody short next to somebody tall, the COVID it like goes up and down. It knows that it can't get you there. But if you stand up, it's gonna go right in you. Everybody knew it was crazy. Everybody knew it was crazy, and people did it anyway. There's a video going around of a city council meeting, something like that, in San Francisco. And the people there are all cheering and celebrating because they're pushing for a ceasefire in Gaza. They want dead Jews. It's San Francisco. Who's surprised? And so they're all cheering this. They're all wearing these shirts, end genocide, except if it's against Jews, in which case, kill, kill, kill. It's fun. Whatever it is they put on a T-shirt. I don't know. I didn't make the T-shirts. And so they're all cheering. They're all clapping. And 99% of them are wearing masks. And people are like, when is this from? And you realize it's from last week. They know that they were lied to. But they still want this entire world. They still want this level of, wait for it, oppression. It's a weird thing to want to be oppressed. It's a weird thing to want to be constantly put upon. But if you're somebody who believes in DEI or CRT, you believe in these Marxist principles, everything is always put upon you. And the being put upon means you have something to fight against. And that is the symbol of good and decency. You're fighting against the oppression. The only way to fight against oppression is to what? I'll ask the class. Anybody want to raise their hands? The only way one can fight against oppression is to what? What is be oppressed? That is the correct answer. That is the correct answer. Double Jeopardy coming up. The only way you can fight oppression is if you're oppressed. The only way you can signal your virtue, the only way to be virtuous is to signal your virtue. And what could be a more virtuous thing than to wear a mask to make sure others are going to live? Masks don't stop COVID. They never did. We have the studies. And anybody who says otherwise is lying. They've always been lying. And yes, doctors who say masks stop COVID are lying. How much more data could we possibly need? Even if you're wearing an N95 perfectly fitted, you're not talking about 100%. And people aren't wearing N95s because if you actually wore one of those things for any length of time, the headache you'd have would be through the roof. So they wear the surgical mask, which has the gap here and the gap there and the gap in the other place. And it doesn't stop an aerosolized virus. And it's, what is it, 3%? Less than 3%? It was the University of Waterloo that did that study a couple years ago. Masks don't stop COVID. The only reason to wear a mask is because you want to look good to other people. You want to be liked by other people. You want to be approved of by other people. You knew that staying 6 feet away from people was the dumbest damn thing you ever heard in your entire life? I want to say for the record, I never did it. Now, if I was in a store and they had those stupid things on the floor, it wasn't my job to walk up behind somebody and be like, how you doing tonight? You smell pretty. I'm really Joe Biden. I had no need to do. Is that something you should do? Does that work? Is that a pickup thing? I'm married. I don't think I need to do that. And by the way, if that's something, like if you walked up behind somebody and you're like, how are you doing tonight? And they turned around and went, I'm doing great, thanks. That's not a soulmate. That's a time for you to run. That is not a wedding I want to be invited to. It's going to take place in a van down by the river. The meal served is whatever was left over from the bakery the day before. That is not it. But if they had the things, I wasn't going to cause a problem for the store, for anybody else. I'll do the thing. It was my choice to go into the store. It's just like when people went into the stores not wearing masks. I don't have to wear a mask. I'm an American. Now, we should address that. Because I argued that the store can state, this is what we require. I have been working myself through this philosophy and asking myself, is that really the case? I tend to be somebody who sides with the idea that the small business owner can decide what the small business owner does. So, for example, I don't believe in the concept of what's known as the public accommodation. Right? I don't believe that you have to serve the person in front of you. I don't think you have to serve them at all. I think that you are allowed within the confines of your own private business, not government, not by any stretch government, your own private business. I think you can be as much of a bigot and a jerk face and a punk as you want to be. And if you don't want to serve me because I'm Jewish, you don't have to. If you don't want to serve me because I'm conservative, you don't have to. I don't believe you have to. I don't like the cut of your jib. Whatever the reason is, you don't have to do it. You don't have to serve me. I think that if you're somebody who believes in actual freedom, and remember, I'm a liberty guy, but if you believe in actual liberty, why would you say I have to serve this person? Wouldn't the proper response be there's somebody else who has a business who wants to serve them? I don't want to serve them? I think that if you are a gay business owner and you only want to serve gay people, you can. And I don't think that any government should be able to stop you from doing so. But can a business force upon you a periphery, a peripheral? Wait, that's not the word I'm looking for. An accessory. Sorry, an accessory. I have been wrestling with that. And you say to me, no, Tony, absolutely not. Well, allow me. And by the way, bring this to the dinner table. Let me know how it goes. You say to me that the store cannot force upon you an accessory to wear. If that's the case, explain to me the sign that reads, no shoes, no shirt, no service. I have been wrestling with this. I find myself, when I get exasperated, saying, look, if they say they want you to wear a mask, it's their store, you don't have to go into the store. But this is where we get into conversations of what media did, or I should say, what government did with social media. Oh, you can post anything you want. But I had the Biden administration colluding with then Twitter to silence people, to keep their tweets from being shown. I had clear collusion when they said the story of Hunter Biden's laptop. You're not allowed to share that because it's disinformation. It's misinformation. No, it wasn't. I can't share a story in the New York Post. First of all, when government works with big corporations, that is the dictionary definition of fascism, just in case you've never opened the dictionary. But I would never allow that. So now you tell these business owners that everybody has to wear a mask. If everyone isn't wearing a mask, the business owner gets fined or the business owner gets shut down or whatever it is. So they were not engaged in making a decision of their own free will. They were forced into the decision. So they weren't deciding. And then I get myself saying, no, don't wear the mask. In the future, I won't do anything that they say. And I don't know, I assume some people, of course, will because they're automatons. But many people are going to say, we know you're liars. Just like you lied. Just like you lied about being 6 feet apart. And there's story after story of Fauci not only saying things like, I know people love their freedom, but right now we need to do this. How willing he was for other people to give up their freedom for his non-scientific statements. Just thrilled and overjoyed. Thrilled and overjoyed. They lied on every level. They lied. Repeatedly, joyfully, willfully, and absolutely. I don't know about you, but I believe they would lie again. Remember that when you vote, and when they try and make the statement of you have to do this, you decide whether you have to do it. Not them. I'm Tony Katz. So I'm going to give the debate to DeSantis in a very clear and obvious way. But just as clear and as obvious, did it matter? I mean, did the debate matter on a macro level? This is where people like to yell at me, and I have to, just for the record, I don't care about that. Tony Katz, Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. You want to disagree with me? Fine. You think I'm wrong? That's also fine. It's fine. But when you are so a believer in your candidate that you believe that anything else that gets said cannot have any credence, you do sound crazy. And you can find this in lots of people, but Trump supporters have a hard time recognizing that they sound crazy. This was Donald Trump in his town hall last night on Fox.
At all. Florida did shut down. Ron DeSantis shut down, or as he's known, Ron DeSanctimonious. He shut his state down very violently, actually, and shut the highways down, the roads down. But we had, I'm a federalist in a sense because that's the federalist way. No, I didn't actually have a shutdown, despite the fact that some people wanted to and some people didn't want to. But we had some great governors. The governors that did the best job were Republican governors, and they were the ones that didn't shut down.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Love you.
Appreciate it.
So, but a lot of people say, that you listen too much to Dr. Fauci. Yeah. You were president at the time, could have perhaps influenced keeping things more open. And of course, Ron DeSantis would definitely argue with your characterization of how he handled it.
But if you go back and look at the records, you will see that the biggest fan of Dr. Fauci was Ron DeSanctimonious.
This is madness. And Trump fans won't accept the fact. He's on Twitter back in the day saying governors don't make this call. I make this call in conjunction with the governors. And most importantly, of course, he made Fauci front and center, and it can't be denied. And everybody discussed how Florida was open. If it was shut down at first, of course, all these states were, and they were wrong. I won't disagree with that. But the Trump supporter won't accept any of that. You're just terrible. You're just never Trump. You're not loyal, and nonsense stuff. And just like I won't pay attention to people who tell me, oh, Ron DeSantis has run a great campaign. You're being silly when you say he ran a bad campaign. He's run a bad campaign. I see the polling numbers. You would think it would show better. And I've got the philosophy that he can win Iowa. So the question before us is, if DeSantis beats Haley in a debate, which he did, by the way, it's obvious to any rational mind. Does it matter? That's what we're about to find out. That's what we need to see. I will dig into more of that tomorrow, everyone. I'm Tony Katz. Take care.